Question is, a company collects data for temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure in cities across multiple continents. The average volume of data that the company collects from each site daily is 500 GB. Each site has a high-speed internet connection. The company wants to aggregate the data from all these global sites as quickly as possible in a single Amazon S3 bucket. The solution must minimize operational complexity. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Turn on S3 transfer acceleration on the destination S3 bucket. Use multi-part uploads to directly upload site data to the destination S3 bucket. Option B. Upload the data from each site to an S3 bucket in the closest region. Use S3 cross-region replication to copy objects to the destination S3 bucket. Then remove the data from the origin S3 bucket. Option C. Schedule AWS Snowball Edge Storage Optimized Device Job daily to transfer data from each site to the closest region. Use S3 cross-region replication to copy objects to the destination S3 bucket. Option D. Upload the data from each site to an Amazon EC2 instance in the closest region. Store the data in an Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS volume at regular intervals. Take an EBS snapshot and copy it to the region that contains the destination S3 bucket. Restore the EBS volume in the region. Correct answer is option A. Turn on S3 transfer acceleration on the destination S3 bucket. Use multi-part uploads to directly upload site data to the destination S3 bucket. Next question is, a company uses AWS organizations to manage multiple AWS accounts for different departments. The management account has an Amazon S3 bucket that contains project reports. The company wants to limit the access to this S3 bucket to only users of accounts within the organizations in AWS organizations. Which solution meets these requirements with the least amount of operational overhead? Option A. Add the AWS principal org ID global condition key with a reference to the organization ID to the S3 bucket policy. Option B. Create an organizational unit OU for each department. Add the AWS principal org paths global condition key to the S3 bucket policy. Option C. Use AWS CloudTrail to monitor to create the account, invite account to organization, leave organization, and remove account from organization events. Update the S3 bucket policy accordingly. Option D. Tag each user that needs access to the S3 bucket. Add the AWS principal tag global condition key to the S3 bucket policy. Correct answer is option A. Add the AWS principal org ID global condition key with a reference to the organization ID to the S3 bucket policy. Next question is, an application runs on an Amazon EC2 instance in a VPC. The application processes logs that are stored in an Amazon S3. The EC2 instance needs to access the S3 bucket without connectivity to the internet. Which solution will provide private network connectivity to Amazon S3? Option A. Create a gateway VPC endpoint to the S3 bucket. Option B. Stream the logs to Amazon CloudWatch logs. Export the logs to the S3 bucket. Option C. Create an instance profile on Amazon EC2 to allow S3 access. Option D. Create an Amazon API gateway API with a private link to access the S3 endpoint. Correct answer is option A. Create a gateway VPC endpoint to the S3 bucket. Next question is, a company is hosting a web application on AWS using a single Amazon EC2 instance that stores user uploaded documents in an Amazon EBS volume. For better scalability and availability, the company duplicated the architecture and created a second EC2 instance and EBS volume in another available zone, placing both behind an application load balancer. After completing this change, users reported that each time they refreshed the website, they could see one subnet of their documents or the other, but never all of the documents at the same time. What should a solution architect propose to ensure users see all of their documents at once? Option A. Copy the data so both EBS volumes contain all of the documents. Option B. Configure the application load balancer to direct a user to the server with the documents. Option C. Copy the data from the EBS volumes to Amazon EFS. Modify the application to save new documents to Amazon EFS. Option D. Configure the application load balancer to send the request to both servers. Return each document from the correct server. Correct answer is option C. Copy the data from both EBS volumes to Amazon EFS. Modify the application to save new documents to Amazon EFS. Next question is, a company uses NFS to store large video files in one premises network attached storage. Each video file ranges in size from 1 MB to 500 GB. The total storage is 70 TB and is no longer growing. The company decides to migrate the video files to Amazon S3. The company must migrate video files as soon as possible while using the least possible network bandwidth. Which solution will meet these requirements? Option A. Create an S3 bucket. Create an IAM role that has permissions to write to the S3 bucket. Use the AWS CLI to copy all files locally to the S3 bucket. Option B. Create an AWS Snowball Edge job. Receive a Snowball Edge device on premises. Use the Snowball Edge client to transfer data to the device. Return the device so that AWS can import data into Amazon S3. Option C. Deploy an S3 file gateway on premises. Create a public service endpoint to connect to the S3 file gateway. Create an S3 bucket. Create a new NFS file share on the S3 file gateway. Point the new file share to the S3 bucket. Transfer the data from the existing NFS file share to the S3 file gateway. Option D. Set up an AWS Direct Connect connection between the on-premises network and AWS. Deploy an S3 file gateway on premises. Create a public virtual interface (VIF) to connect to the S3 file gateway. Create an S3 bucket. Create a NFS file share on the S3 file gateway. Point the new file share to the S3 bucket. Transfer the data from the existing NFS share to the S3 file gateway. Correct answer is option B. Create an AWS Snowball Edge job. Receive a Snowball Edge device on premises. Use the Snowball Edge client to transfer data to the device. Return the device so that AWS can import the data into Amazon S3.